I'm not starting yet. I'm just clearing space. Hey, where's my pick holder? Good morning. Boker Or. Just in case you're a guest, my name is Rabbi David Young. This is Rabbi Stephen Einstein. We are here to remember Dwight Borses, our friend, longtime congregant. And we are so blessed to have so many of us here today in the room, and I know a lot of people online watching the streaming as well. So thank you for your presence as well online. Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid ki mimini bal emot. I have set the eternal always before me. God is at my side. I shall not be moved. Therefore does my heart exult and my soul rejoice. My being is secure. For you will not abandon me to death, nor let your faithful ones see destruction. You show me the path of life. Your presence brings fullness of joy. Enduring happiness is your gift.
For generations, Jews and Christians have drawn comfort from the Psalms, and the psalm that's probably most commonly used at times of memory is the 23rd Psalm. And the reason is because of the line that says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. It is a poem of a faith. I'm going to read the psalm in the original and then in the English. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echsar. Bino deshe yarbitzeni al mei menuchot yanaleni. Nafshi yishovev yancheni v'ma'agalei tzedek l'man shemo. Gam ki elech begeit salmavet lo irara ki ata imadi. Shiftecha umishantecha hema yanachamuni. Ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged sororai. Tishanta v'shemen roshi kosi revaya. Achtov b'chesed yudefuni kol yemei chayai. V'shavti bevet Adonai la'orech yamim. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. Guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The psalmist asked this question: God, who may dwell in your house? And in biblical fashion, why say things one way when you can repeat it slightly differently? He then says, who may dwell in your holy mountain? And now the answer. You tell me if this doesn't sound like the man we're honoring today. Those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth in their hearts, who do not slander others or wrong them or bring shame upon them, who scorn the lawless but honor those who revere God, who give their word and come what may do not retract, who do not exploit others, who do not take bribes. Those who live in this way shall not be shaken. There are going to be a lot of words spoken today about Dwight. Very honestly, we could just stop now, go into the other room and eat, because the psalmist said it, didn't he? he described the life that Dwight lived. So for a number of summers, I was part of a faculty that gathered together on the campus of the Hebrew Union College in Cincinnati to train people who were going to be outreach chairs, outreach coordinators in their synagogues. And I did this for a number of years. Well, one of the people who attended this seminar was a woman representing a synagogue in Tempe, Arizona. And when she got back home, she called her brother on the phone. And she said, I was just at the seminar, and I met a rabbi, someone I think you would really like. And his congregation is right down the street from where you live. Get over there. Somewhat surprisingly, because brother and sister didn't always agree on everything, he followed her advice, and he came over here. You know who the brother was, of course. It was Dwight Borses. And that was the beginning. And he, Irene, started to come. And they came regularly. Came to services just about every Shabbat. Sat over in that area. And then, learning that we have adult classes, of course, both being lifelong learners, that was of interest. At a certain point, Irene heard that I taught an introduction to Judaism class, and they went to that too. And shall we say they got hooked? But Dwight, it wasn't enough just to attend casually. I don't think Dwight ever really did anything casually. He threw himself into it. The studies that we did, he went into depth. He read above and beyond. He was always present. He had significant things to add or to ask. And as he learned, he was impelled to do more, and that was also to teach. And there are people here who have benefited greatly from his learning and his teaching. You're going to hear many different parts of Dwight's life today, so this is the only aspect that I'm really going to focus on. I'm going to conclude with a prayer. I'm not praying the prayer, I'm reading it, because the words here, it's a prayer that we call Ahava Rabbah, great love, that for us, one of the ways that God shows love for us and we show love for God is through study. This is crucial. And here's the line about how do we deal with Torah, which is the text of study in the broadest sense. What are we called to do? Lishmoa, first of all, we ask God to place within our hearts, lehavin ulahaskil, to understand, to gain wisdom from our study. Lishmoa, to listen carefully to the words. Lasot ulkayem, to do what it says, to fulfill the goals set out for us. And now the two key words of all for Dwight Borses, lilmod ulelamed, to learn and to teach. He did so in so many ways, certainly for this congregation and for dear family and friends. He was, in so many ways, a teacher of life and all of us are grateful. Tehi nishmato tzurah b'tzur hachayim. May his soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. And we say, Amen.
Sa'inai el heharim me'ayin yavo ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going and coming, now and forever. Poem by Rabbi Sylvan Kamens and Rabbi Jack Reamer, modified only slightly. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember him. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember him. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember him. In the blueness of sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember him. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember him. When you stop to think about how astronauts use the facilities, you will think of him. In the beginning, only a few of you got that. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember him. I think you like it better that way, don't you? When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember him. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember him. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember him. Every time a train goes by or you hear its whistle, you will remember him. So long as he lives, we too will live, for he is now a part of us as we remember him. From the book of Ecclesiastes, for everything there is a season, a time for every experience under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep, a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. We're going to give time to speak to some of the people who knew Dwight best, starting with his niece Shelley and his son Dan.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. It means a lot to me, and it means a lot to Dwight and to Irene and his family. And I'm grateful to have 3 generations of my little family here as well. So truly, Bador, we honor and remember Dwight. On the day Dwight passed away, I wrote a few words about what he meant to me. And Irene asked me if I would share them with you today. And even though I'm a lawyer, I promise they're brief. It's not long. My aunt and uncle lived in a house with popcorn ceilings in the suburbs at the end of a cul-de-sac next to a park. As a kid, the house with popcorn ceilings represented everything I ever wanted: stability, security, happiness, I lived mostly in apartments, moving time and again across a sprawling urban metropolis. Always a different school, always trying to make new friends, always wondering when I would have to move again. When I visited my family in the house with popcorn ceilings, I felt safe. No alcohol-induced fights, no divorces, reconciliations, and boyfriends in between. Just board games and fun. And I remember beating Dan at Risk, and he was very upset. And playing sneakers on the Apple II. As a grown-up, I often visited my aunt and uncle in the house with popcorn ceilings. I brought them cookies to show my gratitude. Now today, those memories are so precious because today is the day I lost my uncle. So I grieve in my own house, in the suburbs, at the end of a cul-de-sac, next to a park. And I will miss my uncle forever. And I do have one favor to ask of all of you. Ever since I was a little kid, I always associated songs with the people that I loved and who were important to me. And Dwight's song is Kodachrome by Paul Simon, because when I was a kid, Dwight always had all the high-tech gadgets. He had the best Polaroid camera. Oh my gosh. And the home movies and the photographs that Dwight took when I was a child really, to me, represented the greens of summer, as Paul Simon sang. So the next time you're cruising on the freeway and you're cranking the oldies on, KRS 101, and Kodachrome comes on by Paul Simon, if you will just take a moment to think of Dwight and what he meant to you and what he meant to the Jewish community here, I would be really grateful. So thank you.
I'm Dan. I'm here to talk about my dad. As some of you know, he grew up poor. He moved frequently from place to place. He was the second child of a father who, in his own words, was, quote, merely a sperm donor. Though my grandfather was no role model, my dad had the character and the empathy to find other role models. His Uncle George, his Aunt Yetta. Dad learned from them and spared us from any dysfunction he grew up with. He bore any dysfunction alone to spare us. Though there were sparks of temper that remained and occasionally surfaced, my dad was loving. He always knew what was going on in my life, many challenges I had in my academic or social life. He even followed my ever-shifting hobbies. Dad worked really hard in school and at his career, in many ways a quintessential provider. But while he faced material insecurity growing up, I never had to wrestle with material concerns. I always had a place to stay. I never went hungry, not even for a single night. As parents, Dad and my mom worked really well together. Mom took upon herself most of the day-to-day parenting, and she took it upon herself to teach us self-sufficiency. She taught us to feed ourselves, to do our own laundry, to grow up into capable adults. And I'm so happy my mom has found this wonderful community here. Growing up, Mom sometimes referred to Dad as a Disneyland dad. But despite the connotations of that phrase, Dad was always present in the moment. I noticed Rabbi Einstein mentioned he was always present. He was always there when we needed him. He always listened. He often tried to fix our problems, which didn't always work at the time. But his words have affected me in ways that are clear in middle age. One expression that stuck with me, because he said it all the time, is life is what happens when you make other plans. Dad worked hard to shape life for us, to spare us from what he had to tolerate growing up. But he prepared us to embrace the ride, to find joy in the unexpected. He took my sister and I to so many parks growing up and waited patiently while we played. He took us to the movies. He usually let us choose the film. I remember one time he didn't let me choose. He made me see a specific movie, and I was kind of grumpy about it at the time. It was Star Trek 4. While I grumbled then, within 6 months, I was describing myself as a Trekkie. Dad was taking me and my sister and Rabbi Einstein's daughter to Star Trek conventions, one time with her. He was waiting in line with us for autographs, perfect geek dad. He grew up, I don't know if you know this, but he loved B-movie horror films, Roger Corman, and especially those with Vincent Price. We watched so much Vincent Price growing up, and that brought out in me an appreciation of the imaginative as a balance to the serious side of life. I have so many wonderful memories with Dad, enough to sustain me for the rest of my life, and I am proud to be his son.
I think that these eulogies are so similar. Describes in itself what a stalwart person Dwight was. Consistent, always himself. Whatever environment he was in, he was Dwight. God, you abide amid the ceaseless tides of time that sweep away the generations. We've come to this place in this moment in eternity to say goodbye to all that remains mortal of your child, Dwight Borses. Those who loved him have come to recall the happy days when he walked among them on this earth, when blessed by his love, they lived their lives. He's with them even now, though the winds of many seasons are destined to blow past his grave. May God reward him for all the good things he did in this world, and may God forgive him for the times when he may have fallen short. Since before I started here at CBT, Dwight was always there. He attended most of the classes, most of the Shabbat services until the pandemic, most of the events. He was there. Even during COVID, I was confident Dwight would attend our online Tuesday evening classes and Torah study when the topic sparked his interest. Even if he suspected he would be the only one there, he was there. Often wearing a bright orange or bright green yarmulke, which we always found especially funny if he and I matched. Dwight was an engineer and a teacher. Because he was a teacher, he was a consummate student. He loved learning, loved sharing what he had learned, loved discovering new things. The more esoteric, the better. He studied Torah and trains with equal fervor, often reminding others that he would have liked to have been the other kind of engineer. When he studied, he liked to find rare texts that were not part of any annual cycle. And in his memory, I thought we could hear the words of Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, known as Nachmanides, in a letter to his son from the 13th century, published most recently in the Jewish Quarterly Review, as recently as 1892. In this section, he's describing how he would hope his children will behave when he's gone. He says he hopes she'yeh tamid b'yishan, b'rachman, v'gomel chesed, that they should always be modest, merciful, and charitable. For these are the qualities by which the Jewish people are known. Let all their thoughts and meditations be directed to the service of Adonai and be as charitable and benevolent as possible. Let them always be careful not to mention the name of God in vain, to be honest in all business transactions, and let their yea always be yea. I love that part. Let them love and honor scholars, thus to merit the honor of having scholars as in-laws. It's hard to say it better than Nachmanides, and I like to think Dwight would agree. For he was modest and charitable, benevolent, honest, and careful. And he was wont to let his yeses be yeses, especially to his children and grandchildren. boy, did he love and honor scholars, and it was always an honor to learn with him. In his presence, we ask God's blessings on his family. May his wife Irene draw comfort from his memory. May his children, Becky and Dan and Maria, derive strength from his legacy. May his grandchildren, Carolyn and Marina, live by his example. May, along with his niece Shelley, all of them living a life that in his best moments he would wish you to live. May he be for all those he loved a militio share, a righteous intermediary on high who watches over those he cared about below, always here. Zichrono livracha, may Dwight's memory be a blessing. Take a moment of silent remembrance. We rise for El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Amtzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina, Im Kedoshim Utorim, Gezohar Harakia Mazhirim, Et Nishmat Shimon Yisrael Ben Ruth, Shalach Leolamo, Bal Harachamim Yasti Rehu B'Seter Knafav Leolamim, V'yitzror B'Tzrachayim Et Nishmato, Adonai Hu Nachalato, V'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo v'nomar. Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Dwight Borses, who's entered eternity. God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. Let us say, amen. Early or late, all must answer the summons to return to the source of being, for we lose our hold on life when our time has come, as the leaf falls from the bough when its day is done. The deeds of the righteous enrich us all, as the fallen leaf enriches the soil beneath. The dust returns to earth. The spirit lives on with God. Like the stars by day, our beloved dead are not seen by mortal eyes. They shine on forever. Theirs is eternal peace. Let us be thankful for the companionship that continues in a love stronger than death. Sanctifying the name of God, we honor the memory of Dwight Borses with the words of Kaddish Yatom, Mourner's Kaddish. If you want to follow along, and you can reach under your seat or under the seat in front of you for a Siddur, it's on page 294. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma di v'ra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru, Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'alam Ulalmei Almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal Shmei D'Kudusha Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru Hey shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Oseh shalom b'imromav, huya aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. May God grant peace to those who mourn and comfort all the bereaved among us as we say together, Amen. We're going to, in a moment, invite you all into the next room to share a meal of condolence with Dwight's family. It is Jewish custom that the mourners eat first, so it's also 10:30 in the morning, so you may not be so hungry as to rush them, but we allow them to go in at their pace, and once they're all seated and having a nosh, then you're all invited to do the same. Also, I wanted to let you know that the Shiva Minyan will be tomorrow night at 7 p.m. at Irene's home, which is 8597 Rockfish here in Fountain Valley. And if you need directions or you need me to repeat the address, I'll be around. I would ask everyone who's gathered here, repeat these words after me, speaking them to the mourners. May God console you with all who mourn in Zion and Jerusalem. Hamakom yenachem etchem betoch she'ar avalei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. You don't have to repeat that. You already said it. Now go forth in peace to life.